I guess we're live.
We are live.
Hello, guys. What I've seen other people do is we just chat for like 5 minutes, wait for a few people to arrive, and then we officially start. So,
Stanley's
so
here.
this is
We have our first Constance, Daniela, Siobhan. Oh man, there we go. Look at this. We got a party.
Oh wow!
Instant party. Thanks to Mike.
These are all Steve Kamb fans. It's like, yeah, there we go. Oh, 16 already. Hello, guys. Well, I guess we could have a go at getting started, and then we can do a reintroduction in a little bit. Hello, guys. Welcome to this chat. I am Mike Sowden. I do not work at Substack, although I have the T-shirt. They sent me a T-shirt. What can I say? I'm sorry, but I'm here to talk about two extraordinary people who are much more interesting than me. And in particular, to talk about one of them has just written a book. So, and two extraordinary people who need no introduction.
And yet are going to introduce.
But they deserve an introduction. They deserve an introduction. So, we have, I don't know where he is on your screen, but on my left, I have Mr. Steve Kamb. Steve is, what can I say, a fitness coach. He's been a writer online since 2009. He's been doing all sorts of extraordinary things around the world on his epic quest of awesome. I wanted to ask you about that. How are you doing with that, Steve? Are you still doing that? Are you still updating that?
It's been a while. Oh, yeah, we can talk about that.
Yeah, okay. And he's the founder of Nerd Fitness, which is maybe where you've heard of him before, but I'm hoping that you've now heard of him because of his book, which is currently in Amazon, outselling some guy called Marcus Aurelius. So it is early days. But I think what the message is here, Steve, is that your work is going to be more useful than one of the most celebrated voices in Western philosophy. Is that right? This is Steve's book. And this is also Steve's book. I don't know why he wrote it twice, identical editions, but very strange. It is a wonderful book. It is about picking yourself up after life has flattened you. And I've learned some wonderful things from it. I wrote about one of them the other day, and we have a lot to get into if Steve has the brain, because Steve has been intensively talking about this book for the last at least 2 weeks. But it's been the run up to launching the book. You've taken it very, very seriously and you've created this industrial machine of one man doing all these incredible things. And you must be exhausted. And it was your birthday yesterday.
I am. Thank you. And also I will intro Jodi. So this will be fun. We can then Jodi, you can intro Jodi, you can intro Mike.
So that would be fantastic.
I was going to say all sorts of
let's do that for sure. Taking the introduction away from Mike about me is probably the best thing we can do right now.
Yeah, I think it's so fun because we all know each other. Although Mike, we're finally going to get a chance to meet this summer in person. But we've known of each other for a long time and then have become pretty close internet friends over the past 18 months. And I think, Jodi, you were the bridge between Mike and I. So yeah, both of you are in this book. And the fun thing for me is I stumbled across stories many years ago about C.S. Lewis and Tolkien and their writer group called the Inklings. And I was talking with Mike and we had just kind of connected and had spent a few months kind of going back and forth. And then also reached out to Jodi and said like, hey, would you be up for like a little, like a group of nerds that also like writing? Like, I feel like the three of us are pretty simpatico here. Let's, maybe we can start a group. So we are the Nerdlings, and that is our little group. And we just send messages back and forth about random things we find on the internet. So I'm Steve. Great to see both of you. And I'm going to tell Jodi's introduction because Jodi features quite prominently. Pretty much all of chapter 9 in my book is about Jodi. And I, it's kind of weird. Like, oh, hey, one of my good friends, hey, I'd like to write a large portion of my book about you. Is that weird or cool? And fortunately, you were totally cool with it. So Jodi and I have known each other since the first World Domination Summit, which was 2011.
Yeah.
I had flown in from China, I think. I was on a backpacking, and I knew of Jodi because Jodi is also a traveler and ran this amazing website called Legal Nomads, and still does. So Legal Nomads, Jodi jokingly says, as in the book, became a lawyer even though she didn't want to become a lawyer, and got pretty good at it, and then realized that her actual passion was traveling and writing and kind of telling stories, mostly through soup, but through soup in various cultures, and her traveling with celiac disease. So, like, how does one navigate a world where gluten is certainly can be everywhere, but Jodi runs this, one of my favorite travel websites. And Jodi and I actually ended up sharing a stage in 2020, or I'm sorry, 2013 maybe. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. So
and I think that's when I first got to know of you, Steve. I didn't know you at the time, but I saw that speech, and I was like, I was desperately wanting to attend WBS at some point, and I felt like I was standing outside with my face pressed against the window. but yeah, that's how I know you.
Yeah, gosh. So, and Jodi and I, we had a mutual friend, was Mike Pacquione also there as well?
He was.
I think. Okay, yes. So, Jodi and I got to share a stage together and talk about community building and writing, and just had a delightful time. And then, off and on, we would see each other. I think we saw each other in New York, maybe Vegas at some point with Matt. Like, I just at conferences here and there, and we've just always stayed in touch. And then I know poor Jodi has, again, as I tell this story in a lot of detail in this book, a routine, supposed to be routine, like what, lumbar puncture or spinal tap, essentially. Yeah, resulted in just some debilitating challenges for Jodi that she's still navigating in a way that I think a younger version of me would have said something along the lines of, oh, that, you'll get better, or, look on the bright side, or what, something that a positive, young, naive version of me would have said. And fortunately, I've lived through a bunch of challenges personally, and rather instead have said, like, Jodi, like, this sucks, and I'm so sorry, and I'm sending a hug your way, because I'm like, what cruel fate, this world traveling nomad is now essentially confined to the city in which she lives and is still navigating a lot of this. And the grace and acceptance and but just like wisdom through which you have navigated this, Jodi, has been one of the most eye-opening, mind-exploding, thought-provoking things I've ever witnessed from anyone. And I'm so honored that I got to share that story in this book. I talk about how you're one of my favorite Canadians, and my second favorite Canadian is a fictional character. So you are my favorite non-fictional favorite real Canadian. And chapter 9, I think, is my favorite chapter of the whole book.
I want to jump in for just a second because I want to clarify a few things just about my condition.
Yes, please.
Because so not all lumbar punctures lead to a spinal CSF leak, which is what I have, but we are learning more and more that they are. And we'll talk, I'm sure, more about acceptance and how you get to that point and what it looks like when your life catastrophically changes in ways that you never expected. Like, how do you process that? It wasn't that I just suddenly accepted it, right? It took a long time, a lot of grief therapy, a lot of tears and anger. But the reality of living with this condition isn't just that I'm confined to my city. I'm frankly confined to my apartment. Like, the opportunity cost of doing anything is great. I get a few hours a day of standing up. Like I'm sitting and doing this live with you guys now. I won't be able to shower today. I won't be able to make my own food. Like those are the trade-offs to live with a condition that every moment you're upright, your brain is like sinking down into your brainstem and causing debilitating pain throughout your body. And it's invisible, right? Like I look like the same Jodi you probably saw, just older. I'm not going to be inching toward 50 now. But, when we spoke together in 2011, I looked just as tearful probably as I do now. More Post-it notes were on my head, but now I do not have those there. Steve and I have a photo of me basically like covered in Post-it notes from when we were planning together. But, there is this reckoning that happens when this kind of life change happens to you, whether it's, something like me where I had a life of travel. And yes, this is the complete opposite, right? I had this decadent life I worked really hard to build that I was excited about, and I lost it all overnight. But whether it's that, whether it's a car accident, whether it's a cancer diagnosis, I mean, the reason your book is so relatable is that it's this universality of these life crises that happen at some point in your life, whether it's to you directly or someone very close to you. And everyone struggles to know, how do I navigate through this process? And like you're putting together a process for them that's just very easy to navigate and relatable, and not shaming them, in the process, which unfortunately some self-help does. So I want to also say that in addition to Nerdlings, how I know Mike is through conferences in the travel world, and we also became internet friends before we met in person. We met in person at a conference also in 2011, I believe, before, or it's 2010 or 2010. We were in Cumbria.
It was, was it really? I think
2012, maybe?
Yeah, I thought it was later, yeah. It was later, 2012, 2013, something
the
like
before times.
The first time, I remember the first time I met you online. No, I'm not going to.
Okay.
I'm not going to tell the story about swearing. No, first time I met you online, you were writing on Twitter about the TBEX conference in New York, and then you were the one who was most visible in all the tweets about it, and that's how I got following you. That's how I got to know you, and then we exchanged a few messages. So that was 2010, I think.
That was 2010, yeah.
2010? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And so I have a group called Jodi's Awesome Internet Links, which is acronymed as JAIL. And I introduced Mike to other people in jail, which is just an endless source of jokes, right? It's never, the icon for the group is actually a jail cell. But Mike got to know my brother who's in that group and a few other friends as well. Also, I'm the sort of spoke in that wheel. And similarly, it's really, I never understood people who were kind of territorial about their friends or connecting other people. Like the best thing in the world is to bring like-minded people together. And one of the things, Steve and I, we hadn't met in person very often or spent that much time together. But when we did our talk together, it was just so quick to get on the same page. We had the same ridiculous sense of humor. We're both super sarcastic. And Mike, you obviously fit into that category with like an amazing dose of British self-deprecation put in there as well. So Mike, also a travel writer, blogger at the same time, has spoken at conferences about it, has this amazing way to speak effortlessly about things that do take a lot of effort and forethought. He's very thoughtful about, cannot handle a compliment, very thoughtful about the way that he curates what he puts out. As you all know, I mean, this is his platform and he has a big platform for a reason. He has a way of taking complicated, exciting things and weaving them together into stories that bring you in with humor that a lot of people don't know how to do. And I think he's great at what he does. I'm thrilled to see his success on Substack. And I'm really grateful to be here with both of you today.
I was going to introduce Jodi with lots of insights. Oh, this is awful.
Mike,
but thank you so much.
I will do this because I know you want. The first time Mike met me, this is the story Mike really wants to tell. I swear like a sailor, and everyone, like I said, I'll be 47 in August. I look younger than I am. It's part of the connective tissue disorder that I have. That is why my leak is not able to be sealed after 4 repairs. But because I seem sweet, according to other people, when I swear a lot, people are very confused. And I don't swear in my writing. Like, I'm pretty judicious about my F-bombs. But in person, when I'm around people, I'm just myself around, I do use it as punctuation. And Mike was absolutely gobsmacked. And I would say appalled even the first time that we met. Okay. He was sitting across from me.
You don't swear in your writing, but I think the phrase is save it up when you do. Yeah.
I'm just, I don't want to be inappropriate for the people reading. I only want to be inappropriate around the people that I'm comfortable with.
It's endearing. It's effing endearing.
It is absolutely endearing. Yes.
It's not like I'm not doing it on purpose. It's just how
it's the kind of swearing that if I had hair, it would part it. It's that kind of.
Anyways, to Steve's book. Steve, I have a question for you. I would love to understand. So I haven't written a long form book other than my Food Traveler's Handbook. And that was more of a handbook and how to eat food, while traveling, how to get the most out of eating food while traveling. This is like a much more robust book that you've put together. I've seen a lot of people talk about their process of writing, how they have like a million Post-it notes on a giant whiteboard, how they, curled up on the floor in between chapters crying. Like, what I want to know from you, what your process was about how you set up the structure of the book and, how flexible you had to be. Because I remember at some point you're like, I'm moving this chapter to here. And I was like, great, but that must take something out of you when you've kind of put this out in the world and you feel attached to it. So I'd love to just know more about that process.
Gosh, it was so easy. Had it done in about 6 months, and I've just been sitting around sipping Mai Tais for 3 years. No,
Right.
Gosh. So, I mean, I've been writing essays for 17 years now through Nerd Fitness and now Steve Kamb, and now on Substack. And I had the idea for the book in January of 2023, and the idea was simple. It's like, how did I help people at Nerd Fitness, and how do our coaches help people? I was like, oh, I got it. Like, everybody writes a book about new year, new me. I want to write a book about for that exact moment 3 weeks later when all of that goes to hell and it doesn't work. And I sent that idea to my book agent. And he's like, ooh, I kind of like that because everybody gives up 3 weeks later. So like as soon as he jumped on the idea, what I had been doing is I use a program called Roam, ROAM, and like people can use Notion and whatever. Like also none of this is prescriptive. This is just my story of how I did this. So I use Roam to track, the essays, often links, Jodi, that you're sending out from your cool, your list of like fun links and things. Same thing from you, Mike, and your essays, conversations with friends, research, like it all just kind of gets dumped into like Stevepedia, right? Like it's a Wikipedia, but like my own private. So everything's interlinked, and I'm just kind of like chasing a lot of curiosity. So then, as I'm writing this book, or as I find out that the publishers are interested, like, okay, this is going to happen. It's not a will I get a book deal, but when like this is going to happen. Cool, Steve, let's start working on it. So I started thinking through and talking with all of the coaches at Nerd Fitness and saying like, hey, I want to write a book about the moment after, like when the motivation is gone or something happens in life. And so it was just like a kind of like a loose collection of stories to begin with. Like that first draft, that first version, I treated this like a job. Every day I'd wake up and I'd write, 1,000 words. And that was my goal. It was like, I can do 1,000 bad words. That's fine. And sure enough, I had in 3 months, I had a rough draft. I had my first draft done and it was bad, like very bad. I sent it to my book editor with an apology. Like I literally said, I'm sorry, but maybe there's something in here that we can build on. So initially it was just like, I don't want to make the same mistake I did with my first book, which was like, I spent 6 months not writing it because I kept telling myself, oh, you have to have the structure perfect and you have to clear your decks and you have to get everything out of the way. And then you can write a perfect book on the first draft. That's not how this works, dude. So
in a way, you had to fail to write your book before you could write your book.
Exactly. Yes.
Right.
So I wrote a bad book first, and then I wrote out each of the stories that were in this potential book on Post-it notes or like a 3x5 index cards. Yeah. Index cards. And I just kind of laid them out on the desk. And I was like, there is some way that we help people when this happens. And like, I don't know the exact structure. And here are some of the stories. And then I just thought about it like a lot of walks, a lot of moving Post-it notes and cards around, a lot of chasing angles to say like, oh, is this something like, oh, okay, I know there's going to be a chapter on failure. Like clearly I need to go visit the Museum of Failure. Like I have to go do that. That sounds really interesting to me. Or, oh, okay, wait a second. I don't want this book to be like rah rah, and then things got better and everything is great and there's rainbows and unicorns. I was like, that's not helpful. I was like, Jodi, how are you navigating this? And that's when we started having a conversation. And then I was like, by the way, kind of want to put you in this book. Is that cool? Is that weird? Is that weird to like dive deep into my friend's life? And so it was just a lot of that. And then eventually, and this is the part that you all had a front row seat to, was the publisher about let's say 18 months ago. So Mike, right when we like really connected, our publisher was like, this is great. Like, we love it. The stories are cool. There's like a framework in the book that I was pretty close on, but I was like, something about this just, it's not right. And at this point, I'm, 13, 14 versions into this book over the previous 3 years. And eventually got to the point where I was like, I very much like with the previous book was like, oh, I just need to write this perfectly and then it'll be done. This was like, I kept holding back on sharing it with people because I was like, it's not perfect yet. I have to, I can't share it with them until it's perfect. Like, dude, that's not how this works. Like, you have to share the imperfect version with your friends who know you very well. That would be you two, and some other really trusted advisors and friends, and say, you know me, you know what I'm trying to accomplish with this book, but I'm so close to it. It's so personal to me. I've been working on it for 3 years, at that point, maybe 2.5 years. I need you to be kind, but I also want your feedback. And closed my eyes and hit send and sent you both early drafts. And you were so kind and also like very direct in saying like, hey, this part works, or this doesn't. But then also, oh, this concept is really, really something. And that's when it kind of like really clicked for me. Like, dude, you have to get, like, failure is really strong. Let's get that up front. Let's make sure, the Jodi chapter is built around like that story. Oh, this treading water idea is really interesting. Like, let's move that over here. Oh, this chapter on mental health, that might be a tough ask for people first thing. Let's get them through a number of chapters and excited. And then we can say like, all right, now let's talk about what's going on between your ears. So it's been a lot of like the fun version, which was those first few months. I'm like, I'm playing author and I'm just typing 1,000 crappy words a day. And then it was 3 years of not anguish, because I would sign up for this immediately again. But 3 years of like that struggle of, how do I make this sing? How do I make this flow? How do I really connect these concepts and make sure that people feel like their friend Steve is walking them through a journey from the beginning to the end?
I remember in the initial feedback I gave, I was like, Steve, you really need to put your failures up front, right? Like that, to me, what was missing from the initial draft was like, you want it to be your friend Steve, start out with your own failures so that people already understand, you're in the same place. You're not someone who's like, I've had no failure in life, but here's how you should feel. You're saying, I've also been in this place. Here's how it messed me up. And here's how I figured out a way through, like that was, I think, really humanized the story that was already very human, but to make it clear, this isn't just you as an observer, this is you as an active participant, not only through the anecdotes, but through like how the book opens as well.
Thank you. Yeah, it took, I think it was draft 14, probably one of the ones that you saw, Jodi, where I finally had the courage to put that up front. It was like,
yeah,
like I almost like didn't want to make this book about me, but it was the most personal thing I had written. And then it just, you were like, what do you, both of you, I think, were like, and Mike, you can speak to this next. You were like, I don't know, man. I mean, like, your story's pretty relatable. So the things I navigated was like the good kind of skin cancer diagnosis that they had to scoop out of my head. And then for any content creators or writers, like all of Nerd Fitness's content has been hoovered up by ChatGPT and Google, and I got to watch as we lost 80 to 90% of the 1.5 million hits a month we used to get, and there's nothing I can do about it. And then I went through an amicable but heartbreaking divorce while writing a book about what to do when like this carefully crafted plan you have for your future doesn't go according to plan. And I felt like a lot of shame around a lot of those things just because I'm somebody that can normally just put my head down and work my way through or out of most problems. And these were all problems I couldn't just work harder to solve. So when you both said like, dude, you got to put this up front, like just like rip the Band-Aid off and say like, here's what, hey, like this is the book I thought I was going to write. And here's all the crap I'm going through. And we're going to do this together.
I know all these things,
Yeah.
these happened after you signed the contract. So it's like...
Yeah, a year after. I'd already written like multiple versions of the book.
This is exactly why I'd like to announce right now that my first book will be called How to Win the Lottery. Anyone wants to sign up right now? But yeah, it's like...
I'll buy a copy.
Also with the...
we'll edit it.
Please do. Oh, right. With the writing of the book, I mean, your 4-step framework begins with P, which is pause, and the writing of the book. It's like acknowledging that the writing of the book took more time than you ever could have acknowledged, and you only learned that through having a go, and it didn't work. And do you find, both of you, with your work, your sense of when something isn't working is better than knowing what the solution is? So when you write a draft, you kind of look at it and go, that's not what, I don't know what it is that's going to make it work, but there's something there that isn't. You find that that's sort of an iterative process.
Mike, I know you know, because you get so many of my drafts over the last decade plus where I'm like, Mike, this is terrible. I can't put it on the internet. Everyone's going to hate it. And you're like, what is wrong with you? I genuinely am terrible. I think everything I do writing-wise is terrible.
One of the things that both Steve and I love about you, Jodi, is that you are extraordinarily, you're an incredible communicator. And you're also the most half self-critic on your communication skills, and it's just this amazing. And I don't even want to say that, because maybe that's part of the magic. You know, it doesn't. So far, it hasn't destroyed you, but your kind of the level of your communicative skills in writing, and I've seen you speak, is just incredible. And I know that the run up to you doing these things is you looking at your work with this kind of very searing kind of way. But
wait, I want to say, for public speaking, thank you. First of all, I'm not going to stop the compliments, but for public speaking, I'm part British, you can tell. The problem with public speaking for me was that I was terrified of public speaking. And when I spoke at WDS the first year that I met Steve in person, I wasn't asked to speak. I wasn't asked to do a keynote. Chris Killabo, who founded the conference, knew I was terrified of public speaking. What he said was, hey, Jodi, can you help me with this conference? Like, he sent me an email and I was like, oh yeah, of course. Whatever you need, Chris, of course I'll happily help. And he put me on the page for the conference as a keynote speaker before he told me. And everyone was like, hey, congrats, this is amazing. And I was like, Chris, what the fuck? And he said, well, if I had asked you, you would have said no. And now people are excited. So can you say no? And I was like, yes. He's like, no. So I threw up before I got on stage. And then I said yes to all for that year, 12 speeches, like smaller, bigger. I threw up every single time. And I basically just had to train myself to be less nervous. I mean, public speaking is one of the biggest fears for everybody. It's not just me. Like it's a terrifying thing for a lot of people. I genuinely, my body was like, why are we doing this? We're going to throw up right now. But it got to the point where I stopped throwing up, but it still made me anxious. For writing, there's this iterative process. You can edit after it's published. I think that's why podcasting is, a little more scary as well for me, because it's like you can't go back and change things around, not in a covering your butt way, but in a just maybe I had another thought about this process. What has changed in my communication process, and thank you for the kind words, is really that my uptime, right, is in this squished, compressed thing. And I write standing or sitting because that's the best way for me to think. I do use my thumbs on my phone and I leave voice notes that translate into text and whatnot, but like I still need to be on my computer and like have that itchy writing feeling and get it onto a page somehow. And because I have a leak and my day is in this crazy abacus of moving beads around with these, like I have 20 beads. People use spoons. I have X amount of spoons, in chronic illness. For me, it's like, it's so compressed that I have such little time to write that I think I feel more self-conscious about it now because I don't have the like grace of time where I would want to really spend time sitting and writing and iterating. I can only do so much. And it sort of forced me to communicate or write in a different way, forced me to be just less hard on myself about it, although I'm half successful, but like put it out there anyways, even though I feel like, oh, is this really what I want to be saying? Or is this of the nature I want to be communicating? Because I'm so stuck in this teeny tiny time. And it's like, I never thought I would say, I wish I had more mobility, not just to be able to tie my own shoes again, which I haven't been able to do in 9 years, but also just to be able to write for as long as I want. And yes, I can lay down and read on my phone or like set up a screen, but I don't know why it's not the same. Like sitting in front of a laptop and being able to just vomit words onto a page in whatever way, there's like a flow state that doesn't seem to happen when I'm laying down. And I talked to Mike about this years ago. I called it the writer tinglies because people would always say to me, like in the sort of SEO world or people were doing a lot of optimization for their posts and they were just like, you have to write this amount of times per day and write. And I was just like, I just write when I have the writer tingles. And they were like, what? It just made no sense. But for me, I wrote when my body was like, it's time to write, girl. And that's what I did. And now I can't do that every time I want to write. And I find that to be profoundly hard. And that's not, the same process that most people deal with right now because it's like this weird backstop against my creativity. But I really miss it because as much as writing is a torturous process in many ways, like I would be writing if no one read a word I said. It always was the case. I was writing as a child, like it needs to come out somehow. And that's always the way I felt most myself.
Mm. Well, I feel it's like our job, me and Steve, to keep reminding you that even if you show up and you feel like you produce something at 25% of your capacity, that 25% is at a level that you are not aware of. So that's what we're going to keep reminding you.
Yeah, that's what we're here for, Jodi.
Thank you. Yeah. My two cheerleaders.
I'm the of you. And
we
also
actually have matching uniforms, actually. We're just not wearing them today.
You got a Substack shirt too?
And pom-poms, yeah.
Yeah, great. Mike, I want to ask you about your writing process because you take these complex science.
What's a writing process?
Yeah, this is funny. Mike's like, wait, I thought I was interviewing you two. I want your community to know more about how you write. When you take something, you see a study, you see a paper, you see something that's really interesting. We were talking about Steve, the amazing cloud formations and whatever it is, and you decide to like break it down into anecdotes and like fun stories for your community. Are you writing this like as a sort of theme that you do each time, or is it really just similar to the writer tingles? It inspires you and it comes out?
Oh no, it's just it's guilt. I want money first of all. I'm motivated by money. It's been 5 days since I posted something. I should post something.
I mean, you're posting this, right? This is going to be posted. There you go. Look at us. We're solving your problems.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Thanks, guys. You just keep talking, and this will get me off the hook for another 5 days. So I'll just go to the beach. My writing process, I realized really early on, is because of the focus of my newsletter, I get the privilege and the enormous luxury of focusing on things that generate a positive emotional reaction in people. And so I'm always looking for those wow moments. And I really feel like this is an ongoing thesis I really need to kind of formalize and flesh out. But I really feel like those moments where you suddenly realize that the world is slightly more interesting than you ever knew. There's something out there that has just blown your mind. And it's part of the unknown. The unknown is the thing that usually just gives us dread, especially because of the news. If it's an unknown thing, oh God, it's like the classic fake BBC headline, oh God, what now? It's like BBC breaking, oh God, what now? Well, that's kind of like how we can feel about the unknown. But the unknown carries within it possibility, and that's the thing that Steve's book is about so much. It's about all this generation of things that you never knew you could bring into being in yourself and in the world. And that is really possibility and wonder and awe and serendipity and all these things that as travel writers we were so interested in.
Yeah.
When you go out into the world, you're opening yourself up to the unknown, changing your life in a very visceral way through the people that you meet. And that's one of the greatest things about travel. And as we've all learned about travel, the more people that you meet, the more that you realize people are so interesting. And it's all these stories out, all these people living these amazing lives. And I feel like now I've got a newsletter that I can lean into that. And I try and write about things from that perspective. I'm not trying to hide the fact that there are bad things going on in the world. I write about science. There's stuff going on in science in the States right now, which is absolutely shocking. And all sorts of incredibly important scientific bodies getting defunded. And this is all bad stuff. But at the same time, there are also things happening in the world which are really, really incredible and world changing from a scientific perspective that are not getting publicity that they should, like the solar power revolution happening worldwide. China is leading the way with solar power generations, and it's incredible. There's so much good that is happening, and so much that I can write about that makes people go wow. And I want to make people go wow because I feel like it's important because we don't get enough of the news, but B, it's important on a personal level because we need a steady diet of tiny moments of awe because they just help us get us through. And that's my writing process is I read something, I have that moment myself, and then it becomes my job to try and find a way to communicate that in my writing. And the more that I write, this is part of my grievance against AI writing. I need to be the one writing this stuff so I can get better at transferring this feeling into my writing.
Yeah.
And develop your taste too, right? It's not just the skill of writing, but like the taste of what's worth sharing and how it is shared. I think is going to be lost if everybody just uses AI.
Mike and I met originally the talk I gave was about curation and we kind of, our friendship formed out of curiosity, that we both have this innate sense of curiosity. Like my site's, slogan is curious about everything. It's the name of my newsletter too. People at the time were like, why are you tweeting about astronomy? Why are you tweeting about science? Like, you're a travel writer. I'm like, I'm not a one-trick pony. Like, we all have a multitude of interests.
You have at least 3 tricks.
Yeah.
4 tricks. Come on. I feel like it's important to be able to, not everyone has the bandwidth to, first of all, read as much as all three of us voraciously read. And it's just everyone is different in how they consume media, what they can have time for, what their lives are like. I'm the weirdo reading like PubMed studies at 10 p.m. to like bedtime reading. Not everyone wants to do that. It's just everyone's got their own
or
thing.
Publishing studies.
Oh, okay. We basically have, all of us, I think, a curiosity to, share the things that excite us. And though for me that's changed because of how my life has changed, my newsletter is the same because I'm still reading all these things and I want people to see them in the sort of fire hose of the internet. And especially now with how much content is, AI slop and not actual written, thoughtful content, there's just more of a need to surface the things that people might not otherwise see, as all the screaming voices are competing for their attention. So to be able to sort of share amazing books, amazing articles, the way that Mike does in more long form, it's just, I think when your brain works this way, it's a real opportunity to be able to like have people see something they might not otherwise see and hopefully make their day better.
I don't want to give you, too much credit because I am a genius, and everyone should subscribe to me. And if you're not subscribed to me, you're a fool. But I honestly, over the last 10 years, I feel like me developing a desire to write in the way that I'm writing now is from reading your work, and you are partly the inspiration for that approach, because both of you have this this extraordinary ability to connect ideas together and people together in
That's my
this kind of
favorite thing.
braided essay kind of one. Yeah, I mean, you love it. You genuinely love it. I mean, the times that I've been at a conference with Jodi in person, and I've seen her doing this thing where she's like, "Oh, you should talk to this person," and it's just very, very, yeah, it's very creative in this way that I've never seen before. I really admire that in both of you, but with Jodi, I admire that in your work because you're a curator. You're following in the footsteps of or alongside people like Maria Popova and Jason Kotka, and it's just how do you pronounce his second name? Kotka, Kotka.
I mean, I'm the one who pronounces your last name wrong on purpose. So they're both wonderful curators, and they also inspired me. I mean, Maria's work is more similar to yours, right? Where it's a long expounding on a specific thing that sparked her interest. And Jason, started his site way before any of us were writing online, and he remains one of the best sites on the internet to be able to get interesting information that you otherwise wouldn't find. Like every newsletter, I'm like, via Jason Kutke. There's always one link at least that I saw through him. So, yeah, I appreciate that very much. And I think we're all driven by the same thing, which is to just contribute to people learning things in whatever way possible. Like I went to law school because someone bet me I couldn't get in. I never wanted to be a lawyer. I legitimately, my family was like, what are you doing? Because I went when I was...
You paid for law school by staying.
Okay, well, that's why do I tell you anything? I went to law school very young. I got in at 18. And so I just figured, well, why not? I mean, it would be an act of hubris not to go. Canadian tuition, not what American tuition is. And when I was, recruited to work in New York as a corporate lawyer, I was just like, I'm going to save up to travel. And I thought I would take a sabbatical. And what I didn't know was just that wonder, that awe, that kind of feeling you described, Mike, in connecting with others. And in my case, connecting through food. As someone who honestly didn't care much about food before I quit my job, I appreciated good food, but because I'm celiac, it was like a safety issue. And that allowed me to connect with people through these questions I had to ask, and then, taught me so much about a place and really changed my life. And I think, in the end, people are like, oh, you're a writer. I'm like, am I though? I mean, all I want to do is change the way people see the world, whether it's writing, whether it's like throwing up so that I could do a public speaking opportunity or something like this, which is more casual. Like the important thing is just communicating in some way that helps other people feel like they've learned something new, that they're inspired. And now with the way my life's changed so dramatically, honestly, the driving force for me is to help people feel like they're less alone. Because in sharing just how alienating and isolating and lonely and terrible it is to have an invisible condition that physicians often don't believe you have because they're not as up to date on the research as they should be. And you're basically told it's anxiety, it's stress, you're a woman, it's just, it's your hormones. All of that kind of cobbles together. No matter how strong you are as a person, it's going to mess with your head. And to be able to share all that and have other people be like, oh man, I didn't think I was like other people feeling this way. I thought it was just me. That it's the same sort of ethos that drove me to write about other things, to now keep doing that and putting in that, using my uptime to try and do that, because it is just such a catastrophically alienating experience to be this sick.
And you've now co-authored a scientific paper.
Steve tried, but
How cool is that?
I have.
So cool.
I am very honored. I was asked to be lead author. So I did co-author a previous paper on CT myelography, a new kind of way of reading CT myelography, a scale called SIH RADS, which is kind of mimicked on the same mammography RADS scale that's out there, but specific to spinal CSF leak imaging for spontaneous intracranial hypotension. And this paper was basically a paper on barriers to care in spinal CSF leak and what led patients to have such delays in care. Like one leak type CSF venous fistula, 4 years on average to get care. I mean, really long diagnostic journeys. 20% of leak patients self-harm ideation. Like people are suicidal waiting for care. And I was asked to be lead author on the paper, which was a huge honor. And I also realized my team said we haven't found another patient who's a lead author in North America in the field, which is crazy. And I hope there's more, because it's an honor to contribute to patient-led research that shares our excruciating experience. And one of the things from that paper that really blew my mind was that caregiver belief was really protective against self-harm ideation. So it wasn't treatment that led people to have less self-harm ideation. It was that their caregivers believed them, and that physicians acknowledged the emotional impact of having a leak. And that was really profound to read, because of just how my experience is not my own. I hear from patients all the time. Patients are genuinely told, like, you just should go home. And one lady said she was told to eat broccoli and exercise. Broccoli? Why broccoli? Eat broccoli and exercise more. And she has a spinal CSF leak. Like, that's not going to fix the problem, So to be part of that research, not to get too in the weeds about it, but it was a real honor to be asked, but also just to be able to contribute as part of a great team, and really, really grateful.
And that's in the Journal of Neuroradiology.
American Journal of Neuroradiology, yeah. And Dr. Andrew Callan out of University of Colorado Anschutz, he's the sort of physician that we corresponded with, and there's another that we collaborated with, and there's another physician, Dr. Montes, who is a statistician. I hadn't taken statistics since like a long time ago, and so very grateful to have a statistician on the paper as well.
Yeah, so I want to say, I'll tie all of this together. So Jodi, in your chapter that I talk about you in the book, and I mentioned, my two favorite Canadians, you being the real Canadian, and then the fictional Canadian is a amateur hockey player in the show Shorzy. And in that show, he's dealing with, he's not to spoil it, but it's a comedy. I think it's okay. In a later season, Shorzy has had too many concussions from playing hockey that he can't play hockey anymore. And he sits down and talks with the owner of the team, and she talks about how she lost her mother. And she had so much love to give to her mom, that once her mom passed away, like, there was this void. And her therapist said something along the lines of, like, you had a lot of love to give, like, you now need to find a place to put your love. And she chose to put it towards that hockey team. And it's been really, I'd say, like, inspiring, but like, for you, Jodi, too, like, you found a place, like, you had all this love to give about travel and advocacy and making people feel less alone. Like, you did that before, and you obviously have been navigating just like a unbelievably hard, complicated, difficult road, and had to go through, like you said, grief therapy, acceptance, all of this, and on your timeline have now found a place to put your love as well towards advocacy for your condition and other people that aren't, that are not getting the treatment or the support or the acknowledgement that they all deserve. And I just love, like, you being able to do that for people. And then, like, Mike, you also do it, but you do it for, like, hey, you can step outside today and find something amazing in your hometown. Jodi, you do it through social media. You're like, I went outside today and look at the flowers that are blooming. It's such a delightful contrast to every optimization bro that, like, has sucked all of the fun out of every day's existence so that they can live 10 years longer when they're 110. And you both are like, life is happening today, now. There are people that need help. There are amazing things that are happening. And when you can slow down and, like, actually be a active participant in today, like, what a gift, because who knows what tomorrow might bring. And why optimize all of the fun out of something for something that might happen 60 years from now? Like, that's probably not up to us. Everything is amazing. Like, we can find amazing things now, and there are so many places that need love right now too. And I think that's why the three of us get along so well, because we just love this. We love, like, nothing makes me happier than combining two ideas or finding some obscure thing and being like, I cannot wait to tell people about this. I can't shut up about it. And my friends don't want to hear it. Yeah.
I've loved about your work. Since I started reading Nerd Fitness, you do have that. that enthusiasm, that kind of burning, that desire to share what you've just learned in a way that lights people up. And I see that in both the ways that you both write. And I've always wanted to write it that way. And it's only recently, I guess, I really found a way to give myself permission to do it. And that way is all these people have subscribed to me, and now it's there. And that's
We're
great.
grateful for it. We all learn from you. I think all three of us have a similar, ethos in very different ways. And it was my friend Audrey. She basically was like, Jodi, you're still curious. You're like still the same person. You're just you're in this teeny tiny bubble. And I have written about like the joys of the small, right? For me, part of how I survived was finding joy in the small things. And like you said, taking pictures of flowers, or when I was sealed for those 8 months where I was upright and walking, I became obsessed with different birds because I would see them on my walk. And it was like this wondrous experience of like being outside again after being bedbound for so long. And when my leak reopened, people from all my communities were just sending me pictures of birds. They're like, you're stuck in bed. Here are the birds you can't see. Like, it was just such a beautiful outpouring that was based on a small thing that I just thought, oh, this was bringing me so much joy. And that's what I think all three of us do. And a lot of other people we admire do, is like bring the joy in for their communities to be able to just shine a spotlight on it. Like, hey, you might have missed this teeny tiny thing, but it might make you smile today. And if it does, like, we've done our job, right? Having a counterpoint to so much of the density out there. And like you said, Mike, it doesn't mean that we're not living in la la land. I talk about how toxic positivity is not the way through terrible times. And similarly, pretending that only the good news is the news is not what any of us do, but being able to sort of like sift that up to the surface for the people who've decided that our work is worth listening to, I think is a really honorable thing. Like it's like something to fulfill as an honor, because people are putting their trust in us to say like, hey, my attention is worth putting on your work. And that's something I think all three of us take really seriously. And so does anyone else that we really love online.
Completely agree. Well said. Well said. It's almost like you're a really good speaker.
I also want to throw up every time I have to go on a stage. So you said it was 12 times of throwing up and then you got over it? Okay,
yeah,
so
that's all you need.
All right, I'm probably at about 4 throw-ups, so I need 8 more.
8 more barfs and you're good to go. Are you actually barfing, or you just feel like you want to barf?
No, I've actually thrown up.
Yeah, okay. So
I've actually, I've probably thrown up 2 of those. Our mutual friend, Mike Pacquiao, who is a wonderful keynote speaker coach. I remember texting him once before I gave a talk. And like, here's the other thing, Jodi, that I do is like, I really hope I'm talking in the morning because I just can't eat before I get on a stage. So I remember texting him once saying, my Fitbit told me I've already hit 10,000 steps and I haven't left my hotel room. And it was like 8 in the morning because I just paced back and forth, like starting at 5 a.m. because we're like, we're going 0 to 60 immediately. Yeah. So there's another thing I want to say. Like, I think it's really interesting that, so I live here in the United States. Jodi, you're up in Canada. Mike, you're over in the UK. Like, we all get different perspectives on what's happening. And I think, I'm not sure if both of you have seen, like the World Cup. There's like the coverage of what maybe is happening on the outside. And then there's like the Instagram coverage of like the Scots invading Boston. And it is so wholesome. And they're raising money for charity. And then you have Norway doing the Viking row and the Dutch taking over Dallas. Like
Kansas City, they were like welcoming Algeria's team with like warm, open arms, making the food, playing the music. It was really nice
oh my
to
God,
see.
It's amazing. And it's also like, it's just a great reminder of like, everybody, like the majority of people on this planet are good, kind people that want to support and help everybody around them. And that like, those stories also need to be told, because otherwise it is just so bleak to look at the news every day. And that's why, Mike, I love your newsletter. Like it's so fun to see you nerd out about something that I was unfamiliar with. And then I find myself like 47 paragraphs in to this thing that I'm like, oh, no way. Like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, I love that. I love that so much, because we just, otherwise, man, like it is so easy to just get beat up. I talk about this from the perspective of that. If you guys have read the book The Giver, Lois Lowry, it was a kid's book back in the day, and there's one person whose job is to receive like all of the world, and how he's like, I'm so weighted down by this.
Yeah.
And that's all of us every day now. Like, we are weighted down by the 8 billion things that are happening. Like, we're not equipped for that. So, like, we're like three little lights in the darkness, I think, of like, here are some important things that are happening. Here are some interesting things that are happening. Here are some things that I got curious about. It's no surprise, like I said, that us nerdlings, our group that started is continuing, and I hope will continue for decades to come too.
Absolutely. Well, sorry, Jodi.
I was going to say, I think
polite.
Yeah, we're both so the Commonwealth problem. Like, hey, you go. You please.
No, I insist. Which of us is going?
You're going.
Okay, right. Well, one of the things that I think I learned from both of your work and from other people, mostly from other people. I mean, not. But no, it's this sense of when you're posting things on social media, it's like you have in the back of your head this kind of social responsibility about what you're giving people and how it's going to impact them. And I see on social media how easy it is for us to go on social media and be just overwhelmed with all these terrible things that are going on in the world, but also presented to us in a very angry, sometimes very cynical, and sometimes very bad faith kind of way that has this huge impact on us emotionally. So it's not just information that we're getting. We're getting all this really, really the emotional weight of all the everyone else's anxieties. And I've learned from both of you that you can present the opposite. You can go on there and you can be very intentional with your enthusiasm and do the Seth Godin thing of infecting people with the idea virus. But the idea virus is that you're saying, no, this is a great idea and it'll make your day better. And I can teach you a slightly different way to look at the world that is a bit more hopeful and a bit more charitable, a bit kinder. And I feel that's a really important thing. People who are doing that on social media, I really respect them because obviously there are a lot of people who are doing the opposite. They're deliberately going on there. Well, they're either deliberately doing it, and those people are the worst, or they're unconsciously doing it, and that has a huge effect on us as well. Yeah, and I feel like you can choose to do that, but often the people who choose to put ideas online that make people feel better have themselves had a certain period of their life of going on places like Twitter and being overwhelmed and feeling that weight of all the cynicism. And at some point, they've had that moment where they go, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to be the opposite of that for somebody else. And I feel like that's a wonderful moment of social responsibility that you can come to as a creator online. And you can choose to be counter narrative if that is the narrative.
I will say that I think my work has really diverged from that place in the last 9 years because my life has turned so dramatically. Like I part of what I want to share is not just the joys, but also how hard it is, and do so in a way that isn't airing dirty laundry or complaining. I mean, although there's plenty to complain about, but just to be honestly trying to share openly what it's like to navigate something this destructive and unfair, and what that feels like as somebody who has had hard things. Like we all have had hard things, but I had nothing this dramatic in my life before, and I don't say dramatic in a drama way, but in a when anyone hears about it, they're just shocked because
your identity was stolen, essentially, Jodi.
That's how it felt. Yeah. So I feel like my responsibility isn't just to shine light on the small things. I don't do that to bring joy to people. I'm sharing genuinely what I come across that brought me joy, in case it brings joy to others. On my newsletter, a lot of what I share isn't happy stuff. It's like thoughtful pieces or essays or things that I feel like are getting lost in that giant fire hose I referred to earlier, because but are worthy of people's attention, that hopefully through me people will take the time to read if they want to. In my own work, it's like there's this tension of wanting to adequately express how hard this condition is, but not making that my own identity all the time either. Like, I'm still somebody who reads a lot of things. I'm still someone who has all these other interests, but
like fish
there's
doorbells.
only like fish doorbells. Yeah, fish doorbell is like super popular everywhere now. For years, I've been like, guys, the fish doorbell.
I remember.
Yeah, you're the fish doorbell influencer.
The Verge actually posted like a screenshot of my newsletter being like, the fish doorbell. I was like, yes, the fish doorbell.
For anyone who doesn't know what this is, could you explain it, Jeb?
The fish doorbell is from Utrecht in the Netherlands, and in the spring, there's all these locks in the canals in the city, and fish need to pass, but they can't leave the locks open at all times. And so they put a camera and they set up like a live feed, and that anybody during these spring months, it's over now, but it's usually like March and April it starts. If you go to the fish doorbell site, which used to be only in Dutch and was very like 1990s GeoCities-tastic, is now like beautifully optimized. Yeah, it looks great now. They basically, you press the button for the fish doorbell and it lets the fish through. It tells the lock to open. And so to me, this was just so fun. I would like, before I went to bed, I was like, is there a fish? Is there a fish? Can I press the doorbell? But then they added a button to actually take a photo. So it took a photo of the fish, and then people started drawing the fishes it's just been delightful. And that's the thing. Life is so hard, not just for me, for anybody. Like you said, Steve, like life is just hard. Being an adult, being in this world, especially with technology, giving us all this bad information we otherwise probably would be blissfully ignorant of. It's dense, and something like this that is delightful is just worth those extra few minutes of time to make you smile.
100%.
Yeah. It's so great to see you guys. How you feeling, Jodi?
I'm gonna have to log on.
I'll say this is great. We're at right around 1 hour right now. So this was delightful. It was great to be able to do like this, which I think we've done in the past anyways, but to do it publicly is so fun.
So much fun.
Thank you for the suggestion, Mike, and Jodi. Thank you for being like, hey, wait, I want to join this cool kid club. And
I basically crashed this party. I was like, yo, please include me. I'm part of Nerdlings too.
And if everyone could go out and buy Steve's book, and then after you've bought it, go and buy Steve's other book. That'd be great.
I did get a picture from somebody today in Italy. So the Italian version is out with the chaos pasta. So the white one is the UK version, which is a little more buttoned up, and then the bright, obnoxious, colorful one is the American version, or the North American version rather. I just found it like right now it's being throttled on Amazon because I guess we're selling enough copies that they're like monitoring it and not letting people buy more than a few at a time, which is kind of cool. So hopefully this can help. And like I said, Jodi, you're in chapter 9. Mike, I think you have a fun footnote in chapter, I want to say 5 or 4, and then you're both in the acknowledgments on us, which you both know. So thank you. This did feel like a Nerdling team effort to get this book out the door. You both kept me sane as the little voice on my shoulder, or rather the voice in my head, wanted me to make everything perfect before I shared it. And you were both so helpful with that. So thank you. This was so fun. Jodi, thank you for using some of your beads or spoons for this today. Mike and I appreciate it. And you. Mike, thanks for suggesting this. This has been great.
For sure. Thanks, Mike.
Absolute pleasure. Happy anytime. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody,
thank you, everyone, for watching.
Thank you.
Now, how do I turn this off?
I think this
I really should have learned.
No, this is way funnier. Yeah.
I know.
I mean, there was a leave button. I can leave you too, but
we
I don't
can
know.
leave. We can
We just ditch Mike, and he has to stay live for the next 24 hours.
That'd be entertaining. Mike's here forever. Thanks, Marie.
I think there's a button. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. All right, I'm leaving. Fish doorbell.